Hi guys! Okay, so the second class of nutrition and the environment was far more uplifting and way less depressing than the first one. Today we talked a lot about biodiversity in farming, a lot about soil, and also a bit about factory farm and farmed fish. I won't go into the last two because that is a whole other topic on its own. So with biodiversity, we have this thing called monoculture where one crop is grown in a large area, and this can create a lot of issues because, I'm going to read from my notes, it's much more fragile. There's a higher risk of insect damage, weather-related damage, and they're a lot more reliant on high-tech systems like chemicals, pesticides, genetically modified organisms, and in a more biodiverse area where more than one crop is being grown, it's a lot more adaptable, it's a lot more sustainable, fewer chemicals are needed, less resources are used, and also each crop kind of plays off of each other, like one gives the other what the other doesn't have, and they can kind of work together in that way. So here's something that's interesting. Rice, wheat, and corn provide 50% of the world's plant-derived food energy. 50%. So just think about those enormous areas of monoculture, of one crop being grown. And just thinking about, the potential repercussions of that. So we also talked a lot about soil and the importance of soil. So the health of our planet is pretty much reliant on the health of our soil, because think about it. All of our food, unless it's, packaged and processed, and even that, like, it comes from naturally derived everything. So everything we eat comes from the soil. So if our soil is having a rough time, then we're having a rough time. We talked about the food guide. Canada's food guide is, thank goodness it has changed. However, there are still several minor glitches, and here's a potential for why. There are 9 people on the food panel. 9. 5 of them are industry people. So people that are there for the big businesses and representing them. 4 of them are food people. 5 are industry, 4 are food people. So that means that more than half of them are more about business interests than what's been scientifically proven to actually be healthy. Meat-based diets require 7 times the amount of land as a vegetarian diet. Again, I won't get too much into meat versus veggie diets, but just something to remember. Also that 40% of the grain produced around the world goes to cattle consumption. 40% goes to cattle consumption instead of, distributing it to people who can eat it. We keep saying whatever. I won't go into that with GMOs. We can talk about that another time. 1 round of antibiotics before the age of 12 will change our gut flora irrevocably. 1 round of antibiotics. How many of us had ear infections before we were 12 and got a round of antibiotics? I know I did. And all right, I'll end with this. Ways that we can be more sustainable. So a really big thing was to eat locally. When a fruit or vegetable is picked before it's ripe, then it doesn't have the full spectrum of nutrients that it would potentially have if it was allowed to ripen to its fullest. So a lot of our food travels a really long distance to get to us. So it's picked before it's ripe, then it's sprayed with a bunch of chemicals and waxes. A lot of those waxes, by the way, are made from corn. And so it's sprayed and waxed so that by the time it gets to us, it still looks pretty. So when we eat locally, first of all, we're getting more nutrients because a lot of the food is allowed to ripen because it doesn't have so far to go. And we're also getting a lot less chemicals and waxes on our food that are hard to get off. So that's a really great way to just start being a little more sustainable and also a little healthier. And that's a little bit about what I learned today. Thanks, guys.